Welcome to another episode of the Clever Angle Podcast. We are back with another episode and another talented guest. Today, we have my good friend, Chukwukere Ekeh. He's in the marketing
Yeah,
space, and he's from Atlanta, Georgia. He is a model, video editor, and the newest host of the podcast, A Little Something Positive. AK, how you doing today, buddy?
doing good, Tevin. Thanks so much for having me on the show, man.
No, man. Ever since I started this podcast journey, I've been trying to link up with you. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited. How is old Atlanta?
Atlanta's good right now, just kind of riding out the storm of the pandemic, ready to get back to some normalcy, but all is good. I can't complain.
Yeah, yeah. So I just want to just jump into like a brief backstory on how me and AK know each other. AK is originally from Arkansas, and my one of my best friends, Jay Lynn, he went to school up in the Northwest Arkansas area at the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. And about 5 years ago in October, we met at his bachelor party in Dallas, and yeah, we've been trucking along as friends ever since. So
Sure have, and it's always interesting, how just these crazy moments in time can give you friends for life. So it's been a good thing.
it is, man, because it's like, um, we talked a little bit about it off air about I didn't go on this bachelor party trip looking for more friends, but it's just crazy how just these 1 to 2 experiences can shape how you interact with those people like for the rest of your life. So like I mean I think was Pat there?
Pat was there.
Yeah, so I mean that was the first time I met you, first time I met Pat, and I still keep up with you guys pretty regularly. So I mean it's awesome.
Man.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Can you just give the listeners what's your exact marketing title? I know we're talking about marketing, but I couldn't remember exactly what your exact title was.
So I am the retail marketing manager for Renaissance Bank, which was it's a bank out in the southeast, in Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, and yeah, I just work for them and help market some money.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So, um, what has it been like living in Atlanta versus living in Arkansas?
It was definitely a big shift, especially at first, even though I've been used to traveling, but to actually live in a city that's so vibrant, has so much energy, so much going on. They call Atlanta the city that's too busy to hate. And one of the big differences I'll notice, I'll mention is like I remember going to like concerts and stuff like that. We went to a concert for Jalen's bachelor party, but how we would have to travel so far to go to major concerts, and I was wondering like, man, how can anybody afford to go to multiple shows a year? Until I moved to Atlanta and everything's right within the city. You got every major artist coming through, every big play, every big fun thing you want to do. It's right here in the city, and I was like, oh man, it's crazy. And then there's also a bigger transient population, as in like people who will come here like just for work. There's a ton of schools around here, whether you go north, south, east, west, that people just move to Atlanta after school and they start making their home there, start working there, start buying up property. So it's just been a good city to be in, and for this season of life.
Yeah. So, what was it about Atlanta that made you want to move there? Like of all the places you could have moved, why Atlanta?
Yeah, so of the places I looked at moving, like so it was Atlanta, Seattle, or DC, which I think all of them are great cities. But I thought Atlanta would be a place where I could move, not be too far from getting back to my family and friends if I wanted to visit, but also just a city that had a lot going on in terms of industry, in terms of business, in terms of opportunity. So I thought it was like a happy medium in terms of moving to a new place for the first time. So, and it's all been working out.
Yeah, yeah. And you've been up there about what 2 years now?
Two and a half, man, almost three.
Jeez, man, I still got to make that trip out there. We we talk pretty regularly. After all this COVID stuff, I definitely want to make a trip up to Atlanta, see how you live in, see what Peach Street is like in real life, um, and you see some of the sights. I can't even imagine what it's like to have like a professional basketball team, professional baseball team, professional football team all in one city. So I've driven through Atlanta, but I'm excited to get to explore it as well.
We can't wait to have you, man.
Yeah, so um, through many of our conversations, books come up a lot. So I consider you one of the most well read people that I know. So I definitely want to get your opinion. What are some of the book recommendations that you would want to get out there to the listeners? What is something that we need to be reading right now?
Well, just in terms of this conversation, if you're going to read a marketing book, I always recommend Purple Cow by Seth Godin, which talks about how to just take something that's remarkable and bring it to an audience. If we want to touch on something like faith, I recommend The Purpose Driven Life, which is just one of those timeless books, as well as the Bible, of course. You know, you can never go wrong with the original text. And then this last book I want to mention, it's the title sounds kind of crazy, but it's one of the best books I've ever read, and I read it at least once a year just because it's that good. And it's called The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, and it's just a tremendous book. It's good not only for business but for life and for developing into a person you're aspiring to become.
Yeah, and you've challenged me to read a numerous amounts of books this year, and I really appreciate it because it's definitely having a positive impact on just my mindset, the way that I look at life, just everything in general. Why do you think that it is important for people to read?
I think reading's important, and it's something that was instilled in me by my mom, who was a teacher. Reading allows you to open up your eyes past your own opportunities, past your own experiences. Because contrary to popular belief, like everything that happens in our life has pretty much happened to someone else before. And by like digging into their experiences, you can better approach your own life, your own relationships, your own career. And it's often for the price of a book. So if someone goes out there and lives this incredible life, and whether it be traveling, building a business, and then they put it in a book, for $15, $20, you can have a lifetime worth of experiences. And for me, that's why I'm always recommending books, always pushing people to read and get information because it's available. And it's something that can help you change your life.
What is your reading goal for the year, book
My
wise?
reading, book wise, my reading goal is 100 books. So it's about two a week if you don't read for 2 weeks.
Jeez, that man out there killing it. You on track still?
I
Halfway
am
through
on
the year.
track.
Okay,
I am on
okay.
track. So the pandemic's actually been helping with that. It's giving me a lot more time to read. So
Yeah. So career based podcast here. So we're going to dive into the marketing section of this podcast. But before we get into all of the great things that you're doing currently, I want to take it back to what was it about marketing that drew you to it, like before you started your career.
for me, so it started as a kid with Air Jordans. My brothers were sneaker collectors. I was a sneaker collector, and I just loved the story behind all the sneakers. And I remember download the commercials on my iPod video at the time and just watch the commercials over and over and over again. I was just enthralled with the story they were telling. And I was like, man, I want to do something just like this when I finally, start working and get my career when I'm older. And I didn't know at the time that was called marketing, but that's exactly what it is. It's being able to tell a story that influences, somebody buying a product, service, or mission. And the interesting thing about that is, every business needs it, whether it's a nonprofit, a government entity, a retail store, or boutique. Everybody does marketing in some aspect.
Yeah. So, what did your education look like as far as marketing? Did you take a traditional route, or did you major in something different in college and realize that you wanted to go back to marketing?
I'm probably one of the few people who I chose my major as marketing, stuck with it, really enjoyed it. I remember doing independent study courses on it as well. So, I mean, I loved what I learned. And I mean, I spent time talking to my professors outside of class, reading on my own. So, marketing for me, gratefully, was kind of a calling, and it all worked out.
Yeah, and I know that you're a big advocate for setting goals, making progress towards your goals in a very reasonable way. Did that um, factor about yourself? Did it manifest like at an early age? Was it something that you taught yourself? When did that aspect of you start to emerge?
It definitely started out as a kid. I remember putting things like on like little like those little poster boards you used to do for science fairs.
Yeah,
Like I used to have those and put my goals on. Like I remember one of my goals was actually to play basketball in college. And so I was actually really proud to see that I could achieve that by like, sometimes putting things on paper and starting to just trust yourself to believe that it's possible for you. And that's why I encourage people, if you can, put your goal on paper, make vision boards, do anything you can to help that goal be more tangible, more realistic for you, because I think you can achieve it if you put it in that context.
yeah. So, do you think that to pursue a career in marketing that you need to go the traditional way and get a 4 year degree?
You don't. And that's the beautiful thing, especially about the age we're living in. If you can understand the different marketing mediums, whether that be social media, whether that be writing a website on a blog, creating video content, all these different things are avenues to get into marketing. And so if you can do things and create content and create experiences, there's experiential marketing as well. That's like the big events, like if someone holds tailgate parties and the pre-shows they do before concerts. If you know how to do the work, if you know how to gather people, if you know how to connect and tell authentic stories, you can get into marketing without going the necessary college route. The college route can help, if you're trying to go do it at some major companies because that's a requirement they ask for most of the time. But there's so many ways to get into it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because still vividly remember when we were choosing our majors for different things, and they had all of the majors divided into factions by like the College of Business, College of you know exercise science, and different things like that. And I remember seeing marketing on the list under the College of Business, and I was just very I was just very overwhelmed by the just by marketing in general. I was just like, man, that's just such a broad thing. Can I get a job with this? And that's just something that I want to be able to get out there. That you know, this is one of the reasons why I did the podcast. I want people to see from so many different perspectives that if you go down this path, this is what you can do and why.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to talk about. Did you have an internship while you were in college?
Yeah, I actually did a couple, and so that was super helpful.
Yeah. So can you just elaborate a little bit on what those were and what your experiences in those internships were like?
So one, I was a leadership and marketing intern for this place that was called Community Health Systems at the time. It was like a hospital billing company, and so that was a good experience to get up and learn about speaking, about coaching individuals into doing their work well as branding a newer company in the community to make them be like a community partner and a place that people would want to work with, and hospitals would want to deal with. So that was a really good internship. And the second one, I worked with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, where I got to basically go market for Jesus, as I got to go in all of the schools and talk about, how to use your platform as an athlete to influence people, for Christ. And so that was a really, really great internship for me. I got to travel a lot with that one and really just got to meet a lot of people who showed me, how you can use the marketing and one for business purposes, but also for other causes you want to champion, whether that be your faith, whether that be a nonprofit you really enjoy, things like that.
Yeah. So you graduate with your degree in marketing. What did your job search look like initially, straight out of school?
So thankfully, I had one more internship that turned into my full time job. I started at a bank as an intern. They never had a full time marketing person before. And my
Really?
mentor connected me. Yeah, my mentor connected me with them because they're like, hey, they worked with a full marketing agency, but they just didn't have a person who sat on staff who did it. And so they said, hey, we got this guy that's graduating. He's just trying to get some experience as he's thinking about, where he might, because I was planning to move away from Arkansas right after school and just figure it out. But they're like, hey, go there, get some experience. And so I got to work with them and really just got deeper into bank marketing and learned a lot more about the industry. And that kind of launched me into the career I'm in now.
Yeah. So, wow, that's crazy. They didn't have a marketing person on staff, and then you kind of grew into and became that person. That's really that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's a blessing for sure.
Yeah. So this is a question I keep hearing from people that listen to the show. How do I stand out from a resume standpoint when I'm searching for a job post college? What is some of your advice that you would give?
I would say two things. The first, show up with your homework done. If there is a company, know something about the company's history, why it was founded, the person or people you're trying to reach or speak to. And then the second is have some of your own work to point at. And by that I mean like if it's a job like in marketing, if you can somehow like go create a video, put it on YouTube or start a podcast, or if you're a graphic designer, have a portfolio of work you can show on anything. Because it's much easier to go into a place or ask for a job or send in a resume submission when you can also say, not only am I talking about myself being a good candidate, here's some work you can look at that shows that I'm a great candidate. And I think that just puts you levels ahead. I remember going into my bank internship interview that was in my senior year of college. And I walked in with actual notes, like on their website of things they could improve, how their social media presence was non existent. And that's probably the biggest thing they can leverage, how they don't talk to millennials in any of their advertising. And I was like, that's where money's going to be transitioning to. So I came in with homework done on banking, on what that bank does, and tried to give value up front.
Geez, so you use marketing to market yourself into getting the job.
Exactly.
Man, I don't think I've ever heard that story before. That's awesome. Jeez. Yeah, so whoever's listening out there, take notes on that. I know I'm writing some of this stuff down for sure. So you said that the first job at the bank kind of led you into what you're doing now. Can you elaborate on that and what that looked like moving from um, Northwest Arkansas to Georgia?
Exactly. So, someone who actually heard and saw about my work from somebody at a conference reached out to me, and they're like, "Hey, we see the things you're doing at this bank, and we're wondering if you're open up to like different opportunities, if you're open to moving." And of course, I was looking to move. I was looking for that next step in my career, and it all came together. And I say that to show that if you're doing great things anywhere, people will find you. If you're doing the right work, if you're doing like the continual steps, if you're making stuff that matters, people will find you. People will share that you're doing something. Um, and so for a lot of my people in Arkansas, I know that's tough sometimes, where you feel like nobody's going to discover my stuff here in Jonesboro or Little Rock or Van Buren or Fort Smith, but people are looking for talent. So if you are using your talent, if you're creating, people will find you. So just keep doing it.
Yeah, you've got to put in the work for sure. Okay, so can you just explain, just sum up, what is it exactly? What does a day to day look like in your current position right now?
So I have a fun job, and I like my job because it's so many different things tied into one. So I'm responsible for working with the market, like the area leadership, to come up with marketing plans for all the geographic area I cover. I'm the marketing manager over Georgia and Florida, and so I work with people from Atlanta all the way to Valdosta to Destin, Florida, like just all over the place. And I get to go and travel and meet with those people and just see how can we tell the best story for the people we want to come bank here in Valdosta, in Atlanta, in Destin. And then part of that goes into I manage the building signage, everything from like making sure everything inside the branch, whenever you go into a bank, looks good, feels good, but also the out signage. When we build new locations, I go in and make sure that process is going along. And then also a lot of our social media content, I work with our team kind of as a brand leader. And I come up with ideas for new blogs, new videos that we do for partnerships. So we've talked with some big major schools. Like we have partnerships with Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi State. We do something with a professional soccer team in Nashville. Um, so we work with lots of big partnerships like that. So there's people who have to go into those meetings. So I get to go into any of those kind of meetings in Georgia and Florida, representing our company to make sure one, our brand is well represented, and two, that we're being good partners as well.
So, where's the coolest place that you ever traveled to with your job?
Honestly, I love. We had a retreat in Nashville as a team that was really great. So I love that. I hadn't been to Birmingham before, which is crazy, but I hadn't been to Birmingham before really, and we went there as a team and did a retreat there, and then we also traveled to Austin for a conference together as a team. So I mean, I get to go all over the place with them. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, man. I've only been to Austin once. You were there for that. We'll have to talk about that in a different podcast, but it was definitely a good time for sure. But one thing that I definitely want to get from you, because I know you give me a lot of little nuggets and gems, just through with marketing and just so many other aspects of life. Do you have any marketing gems or hacks for anyone out there that's trying to learn the basics of marketing?
I'd say always look at your audience. Whoever you're trying to get your message to, that's where you're going to come up with your best ideas and generate, the words, the pictures, the images that will resonate. So if you're selling something, whatever the company's selling, if you're selling, you know, specialty soap, all right, who's the type of person who really enjoys specialty soap that likes unique fragrances, that's willing to pay a higher dollar? Where those people like to shop at? Where do they live at? And what kind of imagery do they like? So you come up with all these different concepts of envisioning who that customer is or the story they want to tell, and then you build something for them. And think about your favorite brand. Like one of mine, for instance, is Ralph Lauren. I'm a super advocate of that brand, and it's because it's an aspirational style for me in some regards. It's kind of that northern, uh, beach, laid back, prepster, high fashion American mix. Which for some reason, I don't know, it resonates with me. I think it's cool, and I pay extra money to wear that brand. And so always think about your audience first. The second thing I would say is that you don't have to be super high dollar in your marketing to make impactful marketing. And what does that mean? Sometimes people think, oh, if I can't hire this incredible video production team, or if I can't hire the most expensive photographer or graphic designer, I can't do great marketing, or I can't really work for a great marketing, business. But if you come up with great ideas and you know how to tell good stories, then I think you can still do great marketing without the extra dollars in an ad budget or, for your job. So just really work on being creative, work on understanding your customer, and always be willing to try something new. I'd say that's the third thing. Marketing is always changing, it's adapting. We're changing channels. We don't read newspapers as much. People don't watch as much live TV. So how can you reach your customers now? You look at digital channels. We're looking at more events and experiences whenever that opens back up. So be willing to adapt and change and navigate the world as the world evolves.
Yeah, just from hearing you talk, I feel like that you are always on. You are always thinking about different things. You are always finding a way to adapt to whatever situation you're in, and that's a great skill to have, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I want to know what's the coolest project that you've been a part of during your marketing career so far?
Probably the coolest one for me, and I've done more now, but the first one that resonated with me was I got to do my own commercial, and it was dope because, like, it's something I'd always wanted to do. It's like I'd always wanted to do my own commercial, so I got to hire the film crew. I got to come up with the script. I got to cast it myself, mostly because they were being cheap at the time. But I got to pick everyone out that I wanted to be in it, and then I got to like set it up. And the day came, and we filmed it. Of course I cast myself as the star, so that means I was about to be on TV, and it was just an awesome feeling to see like an idea go from your head and from paper to like being this visual thing that now goes and represents and extends beyond you. And it was so cool just because I had kids. Like it was a commercial. I sang in the commercial, and kids would come up to me at like the elementary schools I would go into and do like our little projects that we do for the bank. And they was like, "I saw you on TV," and they would sing like a little song back to me or whatever. And it was just a good feeling, a good feeling.
So, what led up to you being able to do all of that? That's crazy. I don't think I've heard that story either. Just learning all kind of stuff today.
And for me, a lot of it's just taking initiative. So I got to do that project by like they were just gonna outsource it completely. They're like, "Oh, we need to do a new commercial. Let's just go hire someone to do it." And I said, "Hey, actually, I'd like to try it, and I bet I could do it within the same budget." And that's what happened. So I just by taking initiative, by raising my hand and saying, "Hey, I want to do this. I want to try this." I got the opportunity. And so wherever you are in your career, or if you're in a marketing career, I urge you to just start raising your hand to do stuff and to try new things and take a little risk. And I think it'll pay off for you like it's paid off for me.
Yeah, man. So many gems in this episode. I can't wait for this to go live. We talk regularly, AK, about being lifelong learners. What are some of the skills that you are currently learning and why?
A big thing I'm trying to learn and navigate is the power of words, especially in this business and marketing. Words mean so much, they have so many meanings. And I want to be able to wield mine more powerfully. I want to be able to, speak optimism, speak joy, encouragement, positivity. I want to use my words to paint pictures that matter in a positive light. And so I've been really working on that. I just finished a book on it. And so I'm trying to practice, bringing in more of those phrases by being a little bit more empathetic, also listening. That's a big key. And really just developing that inner ability of trusting my own voice. As I write, as I speak, those have been the skills I've been working on and crafting on, especially during this time.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. That's really awesome, and I can definitely see that those things are going to take you far. Just with all of the mix of skills and experiences that we share between each other, I just know that you're going to do great things in the world, AK. And I appreciate you doing this interview with me for sure. Just wanted to get
Yeah,
that out there before we move on into the next part of this interview. So, AK, this is the last marketing question I have for you. Where do you want marketing to take you? Like, what's your vision for marketing um, in the future?
gotcha. So my overall goal, which I'm hoping I can accomplish in the next 10 years, is when I want to hit it. Um, I want to be a chief marketing officer. And what that is kind of like, you have the C suite of a company. Most people know the term CEO or CFO, which are chief executive officer, and chief financial officer. There's that same position, but in marketing. And it's called the chief marketing officer. And I would love to do that for a major brand, whether that be, Nike, whether that be, I do it for Puma, I would do it for, socks. I would do it for almost anyone. I want it to be a company that I, one, respect, and two, value, but one that is also doing some good in the world in some way. But that's my overall goal. I want to be a leader within a company, to have a team that I'm getting to develop them as individuals, and that we create cool stuff, that we create great branded content, cool commercials, have a great product, and we tell stories that matter, that end up resonating with people in a way that, one, makes them want to spend their money, but two, leaves them happier at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. So, like I said, we're moving on into the next part of the interview. We're going to be talking about passion projects, and you actually just started one, a little something positive podcast by, you know, Chukwukere Ekeh, which is really awesome. We're going to plug that in the show notes below. Um, so let's talk about dreams and passions for a minute. What is some advice that you would give to someone that is looking to go outside of their comfort zone and start something new?
I would say you have to dream bigger than your bedroom window.
Oof.
You have to realize there's so much opportunity. And even if you hadn't seen it in your neighborhood growing up, that you didn't see it in your household growing up, that there are things you can do, skills that you have, abilities you possess that can make a meaningful difference in the world. And so, I mean, just take that leap and you'll find that, it's scary jumping out, but it's going to be the ride of your life. Like, so I've been bungee jumping one time, scariest thing I've probably ever done that I chose to do. But after you get over the fear of leaping, the experience is so incredible that you're like, I would do that again. And that's how it is every time you start a cool project or a risky project in some way. So take that leap. Once you get over the fear, the exhilaration of jumping, it is so much better.
Have you ever jumped out of a plane, AK?
I haven't, but only because there's like a weight limit on it, so you have to find someone who's willing to jump past a certain weight. So I haven't done that extra research yet to find someone.
Wow. You just mentioned bungee jumping, and I was immediately thought, I was like, that was something I would never do. And then you explained like the analogy behind that. I was like, well, I guess I have to go bungee jumping now. Yeah.
Don't tell
So
Destiny I said
yeah, yeah. I was like,
it.
AK said we got to go bungee jumping. So I mean, that was his idea. We trying to find some creativity somewhere. So but yeah, one thing that I found through this podcasting and media journey, um, is that branding and self promotion is so important. I just struggle with staying consistent, posting on social media, getting my brand and my work out there. What are some tips, marketing or otherwise, that can help you grow your social network?
And I'm going to kind of give what might sound like counter advice, but I would say you focus more inward on building your tribe and to understand a tribe is like just a small community who's for what you're for. And we all have these tribes. So, like, for instance, you, Tevin, I know you play basketball.
Yeah.
You're a hooper. And when you meet another hooper, you automatically know. You can tell by the way they dress, by the way they speak, by the way they're talking about whether it be the NBA, college game, and how they play the actual game of basketball. Like, you can tell when you're actually in, the space of a hooper versus the guy that's out there and he doesn't play basketball. Um, so, for instance, in podcasting, you want to find people who are about what your show is about. You want to find people who want to go on the journey that you're taking them on, because you can never force someone to go on the journey. But you can understand that people are a part of different tribes. So I might be, let's say, a vegan person who loves the NFL and also is a great fan of the beach. So if you're speaking about any one of those three things, I'm probably going to jump in on the conversation and want to engage and do whatever you're doing or listen to whatever you're creating. And so by understanding who your tribe is, who you're trying to reach, you can dig deeper into that. And then it also makes it easier to create content, because when you know who's listening in, who cares about what you care about, you can now just put out something that's going to be meaningful to your audience and you grow organically. But sometimes you see these tips where people are go follow 1,000 people, and then once they follow you back, unfollow them. And those little methods and hacks and tips like that, I don't think work for building something genuine and building something long term. So I say look inward, look at the people who already care about what you're building, and see how you can find more of them.
That's crazy. One, I've never heard the whole follow 1,000 people and then unfollow them thing. So I don't know what book you got that from, but I've never heard that. Two, I definitely agree with that. And just starting a podcast, you kind of realize who is for you, who is down with what you're down with, and who is going to be a part of the essential growth of your dream, of your passion project, of your, so yeah, I definitely think that's great advice, and that's something that I think I knew, but it wasn't like actively on my mind. So yeah, that I'm definitely going to take that into consideration as well. So one of my dreams, one of the things that I'm in the middle of is trying to start a media company. We've got a podcast. You've got a podcast on the podcast network. Like I said, a little something positive. It's a great podcast. Whoever is listening to this, please click in the link below. Check it out. It's just short episodes of just what you need to start the day. So that's my dream. We'll get back to that at another time. But you do modeling. What made you want to pursue modeling?
Weirdly enough, it's something I actually started back in high school. I remember I was like signed to like a smaller agency, and I was on the cover of like a little high school magazine, and that was like my first little stint. And I was like, I kind of like this. I kind of like having my picture taken. I kind of like picking out clothes and trying to find the right look to match what they're going for. And so I really enjoyed that and had gotten away from it because, of course, that time I was playing basketball and really focused on that. But last few years after moving to Atlanta and seeing the opportunity there was for it, as well as to travel with it, I jumped back into it. And right now, just getting to play around, whether it be with photography, with finding cool locations to shoot at, working with other creatives, just trying to use that creative energy to build something new, to make something beautiful, to inspire people visually is kind of what gets me up and what gets me to keep doing it.
Yeah. So I just want to. Do you mind sharing the story about how you met Shaq through this?
I got you. So I actually ended up winning a major modeling contest with Wilhelmina Models, which is a major modeling agency, J.C. Penney, and Shaquille O'Neal, because it was Shaquille O'Neal's suit line, and he was struggling to find models. He was struggling to find, big and tall guys that, of course, one looked good, but two wanted to model. And so they launched this nationwide contest, and I was actually chosen in the top three, and then was the grand prize winner. So got to meet Shaq. Actually went out there, filmed the commercial spot with him, did a couple photo shoots with him, did a launch party in New York, and got to spend some time with the Diesel himself. So that was a really cool experience.
Was he different than you imagined him?
He was bigger than he was even bigger than I thought he was, because I'm a pretty big guy. Most people on the podcast, if you don't know, I'm 6'9", about 260, so I'm not a small guy. But meeting
You're
Shaq,
huge. You're
I
huge,
absolutely
AK.
felt small. I
That's
absolutely felt small meeting Shaq.
that is crazy because I saw like the little commercial of you next to Shaq, and it's crazy because like yeah, I mean he kind of made you look like a regular person, which is crazy if you ever been in a room with AK. Um, that's very far and but like that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So for you to say somebody's big, I'll definitely have to take your word on that for sure. Yeah, but I mean, you are absolutely crushing it in all of the creative spaces right now. We talked about marketing. You just dropped so many gems, so many nuggets, so much wisdom, and I just can't wait to go back and listen through this interview and just soak all of that up. I mean, you got freelance work. You're doing modeling, you're doing video editing, and now you have the podcast. Where did you come up with the idea for a little something positive, and can you explain it to the listeners?
Yeah, man. So I was encouraged to actually start a podcast by you. Like after seeing you go through the process of building up a podcast, of creating something that mattered and that helped people, I was like, man, I want to do something just as similar, but building off something that I feel like I can offer the world. And if you know me, one of my hopes for my life's mission is to use my gifts of encouragement and creativity to empower people to change the world. And so I believe by having a positive mindset, I can help people be in a better position to do that. And so a little something positive, I just want to give people a short, consumable podcast episode that can shift their mind to the optimistic things of the world, the positive, the light filled, the joy filled things of the world before they start their day. And it's updated 3 times a week. It comes from like one, my personal experiences. I keep a bunch of notebooks and journals, and I have an online version called Evernote where I just write down every time I come across a really impactful quote, an impactful story, or I run into somebody and I learn a lesson. I try to journal it and keep it and save it. And now I want to share it with the world. I want to give you something as you start your day to realize like, hey, if I get the right perspective on this, I can impact a person's life. I can change my community. I can give more of myself at work. I can live the better life I've always hoped that I could achieve. And so that's the whole reason behind the podcast. I don't care if we ever make money from it, though that'd be great. But I really just want to see people's lives impacted and then be able to point to us and say, hey, because of what those guys have created, what they're doing, my life is getting better. And therefore, I can help and encourage and motivate other people to live a better life as well.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. And just like the podcast, it's very just like I'm really interested in what is your process like in creating stuff like this, because every time I listen to any of the episodes of A Little Something Positive, I'm just like, man, this feels like it's a short episode, but it feels like there's just so much passion and time and just thought behind every one of these episodes, and it always leaves me, one waiting for the next episode. I'm like, man, I needed me a little something more positive. You know what I mean? I needed a little more. So like, what's your process like? How do you decide which episode is going to go out? The quotes. What's that look like?
And so I try to sit down and actually write it, put pen to paper, put it together. Um, Sometimes I find the message first before I have the quote. Sometimes I find a quote and then that leads into the message, or it might be a story. And I sit down and put it on paper, and I try to rearrange it, and I try to really just put myself in the space of, one, when you heard this, where were you at in life? What was the season you were in, and what were you needing from it, from its words that encouraged you, that put something in your spirit, that gave you joy, that made you laugh, something like that, whatever positive emotion it was. And now, how can I translate this into something that can be beneficial to my audience? Because I know we all have problems, whether they be with family, relationship problems, money problems. We're all walking in the day with some kind of burden on our shoulders. So if I could just come be that firm pat on the back that, hey, things are going to get better, that you're accepted, that you're loved, you know, I want to speak in that tone to you. I want to come to you kind of as that brother, as that friend, and that's where I try to, in terms of the tone of each message, come from in that depth. So that's what I do. That's my process. It's kind of messy. You'll see sometimes the pages are ripped out and started over. Sometimes it goes a little smoother, but at the end of the day, I just want to come together, put something nice and concise together. I think it's an Abraham Lincoln quote that he said, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. And that's why I try to have this short podcast. I do take my time with it and try to put together something compact yet meaningful.
Man, it's just like, yeah, it's inspiring listening to you, man. You kind of throw me off a little bit because I'm just so entranced at what you're saying that I forget that I'm the one interviewing you. So I just it's crazy. So action is such a big part of being successful in any endeavor that you pursue. What are some ways that you fight against laziness and procrastination? Because I feel like we all struggle with this on some level.
Yeah, I think a big part for me is just that visualization that each day we're building our own house, planting our own garden. That success or failure are just an accumulation of small decisions made every single day. And so when I'm starting to get lazy or lackadaisical and slipping in certain areas of my life that I value, whether that be my relationships, my faith, my monetary goals, I try to get myself back on track real quick. Where I reread my goal list, my goal sheets, that I make sure I call up some of my friends. You're one of those, and talk about, this is the progress I'm trying to make. Hey, please hold me accountable to this. Like, ask me about how I'm doing on it. And so, one, pushing yourself and lighting that flame within yourself whenever possible, but having people who can hold you accountable and who can support you and who are for you, that's a game changer. So having those two things working together in combination, that's how you fight it.
Yeah. So another thing that you've been really learning and um, doing in your spare time is video editing. Do you have any tips for video editing? Video editing, because that's something that I want to add to the podcast. So I'm just Just curious.
I would say first, you always want to shoot the best possible video you can. Uh, you can do a whole lot of stuff in editing, but it's a lot easier if you start off with really good quality beginning with it. I'm sure, like as you know, the audio quality. If you start off with really poor audio quality, there's only so much you can do on a podcast. It's the same with the video. If you start off with sloppy takes on a video, it's shaky. You don't cut well. You know when you're going in between different things. And you only have so much footage to work with. It's going to make it really hard in the editing room to make that a good video or capture what you're trying to capture. So first, film well. Second, go to YouTube University, which is just getting on YouTube and searching, because you can find literally anything you're trying to learn, from the most cinematic stuff to the simplest, like how do I learn this quick shortcut command. And like I use Final Cut, and then Adobe Premiere is another one. But you can learn anything you want on YouTube. And then the third thing is make sure you always understand what you're trying to convey, the meaning and the story behind the video you're creating. Because you can have a high quality video shot in 4K, perfect crystal clear audio, but if you didn't convey the meaning and the story in the way you wanted to, then what was it for?
Mm, man, still just dropping that knowledge, man. Just dropping that knowledge. Well, AK, I really appreciate you taking the time to chop it up with me about your career, your goals, and your perspective, man. You have any final words for the listeners out there?
If you can hear my voice, guys, I just want to say whatever your dream is, whatever your goal is, whatever career hopes you have, just know that it's possible for you. That's the first step, is just believing that it's possible for you. And then build up that structure, find the steps, ask people, kind of like Tevin has been doing, going into so many different industries and stories and angles, the clever angle. But go find the way. Listen, learn, but never lose. No more defeats.
No more defeats. Shout out Grant Long on the No More Defeats quote. But yeah, man, this has been another episode of the Clever Angle podcast. Like I said, a little something positive is my boy Chukwukere Ekeh's podcast under the Natural State Media um, umbrella. Check it out, man. It's really positive. It's uplifting. It's the perfect way to start your day, and you will not be disappointed. AK, thank you again, sir.
Thank you, T. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, until next time, stay positive.